Okay, audio check. Gonna be kicking things off here shortly. Please stand by. Okay, might as well get started. Um, you know, better early than never. I'm watching my bit rate because I have all sorts of nightmares of live streaming, but I'm hoping the audio is coming through. I see some friends have joined on LinkedIn. Hello. And some folks are on YouTube as well. All the places, you know. I'm multi-broadcast, I guess, to X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Pretty cool when it works, but getting it to work—that's the trick, isn't it? Though I wish there was like a Contoso for live streaming. It would make my life a hell of a lot easier. So we are back on the journey of containerizing this Brownfield .NET application. We are going to try and overcome my limitations in Bash. Full disclosure, I'm a recovering Windows user, and just my Bash foo is not strong. Okay, I'm getting better. But yeah, so I rock the C# and the Terraform pretty hard, and we're trying to get down and dirty with Docker and Kubernetes. Just trying to keep sharp, right? And have some fun while we're doing it. So, I don't know what so pop into Discord. I do have the Discord chat open. Shared a link on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you want to pop in, help me out. You can chat with me on Discord. It'll be a little bit easier than trying to juggle like the YouTubes and the LinkedIns and all the things. So if you would do that, I would appreciate it. Then I'd have one place to look for the chat, and you won't have me like doing this sort of thing. Like on my dual 42-inch monitors here, I got YouTube, LinkedIn over here. OBS is here. I got my eye on that bit rate. My Ubuntu Linux virtual machines right over here, and then Discord is right over there. So we're hanging out in there. Code and Coffee yesterday. It was pretty fun. Got into a very deep conversation about Kubernetes architecture and, like applying it to, I think a question came up from somebody who was like working with data analytics, data processing. And they were like, had heard the cool kids talk about, the Kubernetes, right? As the cool kids do. And was like, yes, this thing sounds like the way to solve my problems. And so I talked to him a little bit about, it could be part of the solution, right? But there's other aspects of like how you're going to crack that nut. So he was trying to solve the vertical scale issue of relational databases, right? Like basically, he had these monster T-SQL queries that took hours to run, and then sometimes not days to run. Yeah, I guess like day. Did he say days? Like it was like many hours. He was kind of lamenting that, and he's like, well, how do I make this faster? And can Kubernetes make this faster? It's like, well, Kubernetes can't make your SQL Server process T-SQL faster, but if you kind of re-architect and approach the problem in a different way, it could solve your problem. And that's what a lot of the cool kids in the data analytics space have been doing for years, right? Is like, okay, maybe we shouldn't just rock everything on a stored proc on SQL Server. Maybe we should like find ways to, parallelize this and distribute it across a whole bunch of, servers with their own compute and memory. And, then you got modern things like, Hadoop and Snowflake and Databricks and all the things, right? So we had a good conversation about sharding, like data partitioning, like how would you approach that? Kind of step one, right? Like how do you parallelize something? And then what's going to do the processing if it's not going to be your SQL server? Like what are you going to run on these Docker images in these pods, running on this Kubernetes cluster, right? How are you going to do that? So, I really regret not taking pictures of the whiteboard, because like we went to town on the whiteboard and had a good old time. So, Ray, thanks for the question. It was a lot of fun chatting with you about that. I did miss my friend Mike's talk a bit, like at least the beginning part of the talk. Mike was talking about using AI and for open source projects. I did catch the tail end, and I got a few good nuggets of information about maintaining open source projects, which I'm kind of starting to do now. Hey, Luckier. Could I increase my mic volume? Maybe I talk closer to the mic. How's that? There we go. I'm not going to eat this thing, but I can talk closer to the mic. Let me see if I can increase the mic volume. As I like have bodily functions happen on the mic. Is that a little better? Luck here? Hopefully. If not, you might want to check your audio, your volume dial. If not, you might want to check your. Yeah, I don't know, man. Seems like it's coming through for me. Not really, but I'll fix on my end. Good man. Good man. I'm just gonna keep eating this mic. So I've been releasing some Terraform modules, you know, and Matthias says it's good on his end. Sweet, Matthias. Name looks familiar. Maybe you were here last week. I don't know. So I released my GitHub AT. Oh gosh, I'm getting all fuzzy. My GitHub AT. And Emir. Thanks, Emir. Freelance projects for the win. Good job, man. Terraforming Azure, I presume. So anyways, I released my GitHub AT. Automate the automation with Terraform. You know, I'm not looking at the camera. I suck at this, guys. Like I'm an engineer. I'm an architect. I'm not like a video personality, but I try real hard. So my GitHub AT, you know, driving that thing around. If anybody's tried it, let me know. You know, I have not made videos about it yet. I made videos about my Azure DevOps AT before I thought I would like link in Star Wars and have some fun. Man, I've been like mid-sip for like 5 minutes. My arm's like getting tired holding the coffee, like, so yeah, like I did have the Automate the Automation series on my YouTube channel where I basically automate Azure DevOps pipelines. Oh, I see. Maybe there's probably some OBS setting that I didn't do. See, I'm terrible at this. So I think I'm going to try something, folks. If your ears pop because of a ring, I'm really sorry. Actually, I'm going to go on mute before I do this. Changing audio settings. How's that? Did that fix it? There's some audio setting in, what is it? In OBS that I have to set the source to mono. There we go. Sweet. Coming in stereo. You know, we like to do things high tech here, you know, like stereo audio. Yeah, so I have this fantastic condenser mic, and it comes in as a mono signal. So I have to like figure out the audio settings to make sure my computer recognizes it as a mono signal, which I don't know how to do a lot, or I forget a lot. Some of my early YouTube videos, like I didn't check the checkbox, so I got feedback from people like, I only hear, stop talking to me in my left ear, man. I'm like, what are they talking about? Because like I don't use earbuds. I've got, you know, some nice desktop mic speakers here, and I listen. You know, I listen when I'm doing editing. I obviously listen to like the audio, but I never really like did the, you know, left ear right ear test, because I'm like, oh yeah, I hear it. You know, not with mics. Maybe I should wear mics, or headphones, cans as they're called, in certain parts of the world. But yeah, I had to totally reset my OBS settings. So I did fix that before, but now it's working again. So Thank you, Luck here, for pointing that out. Or somebody was like left ear. I hear you in the left ear. Yeah. Yep. Is that part of your daily job? Yeah, actually. So at Microsoft, we use Azure DevOps a lot, pretty much for everything. We have a whole bunch of stuff, like different parts of the organization. I'm sure use it differently. I work in the Azure engineering team, and so within the Azure engineering team, we have an Azure DevOps org. My team within Azure has, I think, our own org, and we do backlog stuff every, on certain intervals. I don't know how much I can like divulge. Like the cadence of our agile doesn't seem like it would be sensitive, but like I don't want to get calls from Sela. Those are like the legal people. Because I don't get paid to do like what I'm doing right now. Like this is just for fun, just for kicks. So, but I do have to be sensitive about like sensitive information that I can't divulge that stuff. But yeah, I work at Microsoft. I work on, and I have to tell people that, right? Because reasons, like it would be like subversive to like be a Microsoft employee and then like try and influence people to, and then like hide my affiliation. Whoa, we got like coming in and out of frame. So it's one of the rules, like according to the I don't know, social media policies or whatever, like you have to, it's like you have to make it known your employment affiliation. But I do want to call out, like I don't work on the Microsoft Azure Terraform team. Like there's a different team that does that. Really cool guys, and like we talk a lot for pretty obvious reasons. But I don't speak in any official capacity. I just really like Terraform and have fun using it, and I just feel like a lot of people, don't like in the Microsoft world, like we don't think about it, and it's like, oh, all the documentation has this ARM stuff, so I'm just gonna go do that, or now there's this like new Bicep thing, so I'm gonna go do that. But and the argument I hear a lot is like, well, there's already a lot to learn, so like when I have a customer, I don't want them to have to learn Azure and then also learn Terraform. I'm like, I don't get that argument. Do you guys get that argument? Because it's like you have to, there's a certain amount of conceptual overhead to learn Azure, right? What Azure service you're going to use, how's it going to work, and then there's like the infrastructure as code kind of knowledge that you need in order to be functional outside of the portal. And so you're going to invest in learning an infrastructure as code tool, right? Whether it's ARM or Bicep, in addition to the conceptual like overhead of learning the Azure services that you're going to use. So like it seems like it's a wash, right? Like you could just learn Terraform and as your infrastructure as code tool, in addition to the Azure like conceptual knowledge that you need in order to provision that thing on, using Terraform. So, but I will say, and this question has come up quite a bit. It's like, if I'm going to learn Terraform, and I think the defocus on my camera is like causing that weird thing where I become fuzzy and stuff. I will say it is very useful to know ARM as a Terraform user, because Terraform is just behind the scenes using the ARM REST API, and the JSON specification for every service is basically like the structure of how to provision that service. So That's not going to change, right? I mean, the Terraform provider will implement it slightly differently because it's an open source project and people are, like, maybe they don't like, the ARM, the structure of the ARM, excuse me. And so they're just like, yeah, that's stupid. I'm going to just like name this property whatever. But it's going to happen. So Amir says, a couple weeks ago, I had to create an Azure container instance. I can't believe that. Really? Like Azure container instances, ACI, I'm pretty sure Terraform supports that. I haven't used that service, but I'm pretty sure it supports that. We're going to go look that up. And that's another thing. I think there is some there's a little bit of misalignment between. Let me pop over to my screen. All right, crush your hearts. I hope this works. Okay, sweet. Yes, it worked. All right. So if we go look, sometimes the resources in Terraform, because in all of our wisdom we like to rename things, right? The name of the Terraform resource is probably like the original name of whatever it is. And then the resource doesn't change. The resource name doesn't change, but whatever people start calling it, changes, and that becomes a problem. A good example of that is like, I think it's Kusto. Yeah. So this resource here, like this thing is called an Azure RM Kusto cluster. Anybody know what a Kusto cluster is? It was renamed Azure Data Factory. No, sorry, not Azure Data Factory. Brain fart. Azure Data Explorer. My bad. ADX, Azure Data Explorer. Yeah. So, but it is also known as like a Kusto cluster, right? Because that's maybe what it was called at a certain point in time. So looking at container instances, I'm pretty sure that it's called container group. I'm pretty sure. Manages an Azure container group instance. Why did they change Active Directory to Entra? Above my pay grade, Emir. I'm sorry, man. I've been working with the Azure AD provider a lot recently, and on my channel. Like I have a series, like once a week, every week, I've been trotting out a new video about working with Entra ID and using the Azure AD provider, which is a very lovely provider that I would highly recommend. It's, oh gosh, like I need to go to browse providers. And here it is right there, Azure Active Directory, also known as Entra ID. And you can automate all the things, or most things. Like this thing they maintain it pretty well. It's not on the same release cadence as the Azure RM provider, which I couldn't see why. But looks like they're doing monthly. Oh man, that's probably a patch or something, but maybe every 2 weeks. Yeah, they might be on like 2-week sprints here. It's changed back in the history books, I guess, but yeah. So once a resource or a provider gets named, that name kind of gets locked, and it is what it is. Okay, good. So yeah, if you want to automate Entra ID, you got to use the Azure AD provider. If you want to automate Azure container instances, I should probably open new tabs here. You got to use the Azure Container Group. Now, I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe Azure Container Instance. I've always heard it called Azure Container ACI, Azure Container Instances. I've never heard it called Azure Container Group. So I don't know if this is kind of a creative writing miss on the open source author that named this resource, or, I mean, remember, like the open source project that maintains the Azure RM provider is trying to keep pace with rapid change on the Azure platform as a whole. So there's a lot of pressure to get day zero support for something, right? And let's face it, a lot of times the permanent long-term name for a resource is not going to be like what it is day zero, right? So once we launch this thing, out in, the provider, all it takes is some product manager, some PM, some TPM to be like, yeah, like we initially called it the Azure Container Group, but that doesn't make sense. Like polling numbers say it should be called Azure Container Instance because that makes more sense to 57.5% of people. I don't know. So then they change it, but then the resource stays the same, right? So yeah. So Amir, you gotta go back and look a couple weeks ago, man. Like, yeah, this has been in here for a while. Been in here for a while. I've never used it, but yeah. Just as a reminder, pop into Discord, and we can chat on Discord. But I do see you guys out here on chat here, so that's a good time. Anyways, so where was I? Chat's kind of settled down. Questions. I think I got all the questions. Amir says, huge props to you, buddy. Yep, thank you, sir. Really appreciate the support. Did I get all the questions? Okay. It is not a Microsoft Studio camera. The camera I'm using is a Sony BZ-E10. Yeah. And I bought it because it can work as a webcam. And so when I'm at meetings at work, like this is my office, right? At like my home office, because I'm remote. When I'm at work, I use this camera for Teams calls, right? I use it to record YouTube videos. I use it to stream. It's a great camera. It has two modes. There's like an HDMI, a mini HDMI out, and then there's a USB-C out. So I could just, like, if I wanted to, like, I could unmount it from the pole mount that it's on my desk, and I could take this thing with me. All I need is a USB-C connection, boom, to my laptop, and I'm using that thing on my laptop as a webcam. So it's a pretty nice mic. Oh, Discord URL. It's at the top of the chat, man. Let me post that again. There we go. No worries. There you go. Pop in there. Join the Discord. Usually get a couple of folks in the Discord. I see there's some introductions. I'll have to go check that after the live stream. But there's some posts in some of the channels on Azure RM, Azure DevOps. The Discord, there's an official Microsoft Azure Terraformer Slack, which I would highly recommend you guys go check that out. I've met a lot of cool people on there. My dude Carl over in the Netherlands, yeah. I don't even know if that's kind of German, but like, I don't know, maybe it's the same. But met some very cool people that I stay in touch with on that Slack channel. So I try and pop in there and see if there's questions that haven't been answered that I can answer or add something to. But that channel, the Slack channel is very, very much kind of focused on the Azure RM provider. And if you guys are familiar with my channel, like more so than just a couple of videos, if you've been following me a little longer, you'll know the Azure Terraformer is a little bit more than just the Azure RM provider. Like we're doing pretty much anything in the Azure ecosphere. You know, Azure AD, we're doing Azure DevOps, we're doing GitHub. You know, Terraform is definitely like kind of the center of the onion, as is Azure, but like there's a lot of layers to that onion, as you can imagine. So on the Discord server that I set up for Azure Terraformer, we got stuff. You know, I kind of set it up, you know, hoping people would join and kind of use it, you know, to ask questions and stuff like that, and connect with each other on different topics. And so I got subjects in there about GitHub Actions and Ansible and Kubernetes and, you know, Packer and, you know, basically the topics that I'm interested in, that I think are important for people working on, you know, Azure and automating things on Azure. Because there's lots of different paradigms, you know, when working on Azure. There's virtual machines, containers, serverless, there's operator roles, there's developers, right? And, you know, each has kind of different technical disciplines that they kind of focus on. Anyway, so I just provisioned my so again, back to the .NET Reliable web app. I provisioned my Terraform. And one of the things that this thing does is it outputs. So I grab the kubeconfig raw and I output that, and my little debug.sh script here dumps this output to a file in my Kates directory. And so I have a single repo for this application that has my .NET code, my Terraform code, and my Kubernetes code, which is YAML, right? And so in my Kubernetes manifest, I have my ACR referenced here. Yeah, Immer, absolutely. If you have a question, shoot it off, man. You can post it to any of those channels within Discord, and I'm sure either I or somebody within the Azure Terraformer Discord community will try and answer it to the best of our ability. Absolutely, that's what it's there for, man. So go ahead. Also, Amir, you got me right now. You know. So if you have questions, like I'm here, dude, and you're the only one talking. So winner, chicken dinner. You know what I'm saying? Not even joking. So yeah, so I've got so my pod spec. I've got my ACR referenced here. Now, one of the things that I don't like about this, about using YAML. Of course, this is like way better than using kubectl or something like that. Amir's like, no winner, chicken dinner for me. There we go. This a lot of? I mean, typically your ACR is going to be a shared resource that, you know, is probably going to span clusters. One second. Your ACR is going to span clusters. So you wouldn't always necessarily provision an ACR for every cluster that you have. You might have, you know, an ACR that geo-replicates across several regions that you have clusters in. And then, you know, you leverage that same ACR. But it does seem like we're kind of hard coding the image name in here, where this is an infrastructure resource that would potentially be swapped out. So I don't know how I feel about that. I know like Helm is intended to solve this, but it just seems kind of overkill to have to create a Helm chart, you know, every time I have a simple Kubernetes deployments. But got a couple of questions in chat. Azure App Service plan, secondary. Okay, so Emir is working with like he's got like a resource. Call it foo, and then I think he's got account. Oh, he called it secondary. And he's basically saying like var flag, yes or no, true or false. Oh, so environment name. Then do this and that kind of thing. So, oh gosh, I actually don't want to save this. So Amir is basically saying, okay, I've got this resource that I want to provision, and I only want to provision it when I'm in the dev environment, right? And or in prod, right? So dev or prod, right? So I don't think the full syntax that like this is it. This is how you do a ternary operator, right? There's no more like condition. There's no switch block, right? A ternary operator, it's got three parts, right? It's got the Boolean expression right here, right? Yes, no. And then it's got the case for when that is true, and then it's got the case for when that is false, right? So you can't really do like an if else if like on top of that, right? Like I could do either, I could test if this is either dev, or I could test if this is either prod, that sort of thing, right? That's, if I wanted to have a whole bunch of these things, I could create like a decision map, right? Where I would basically say dev equals 1, prod equals 2, and oh my gosh, keyboard, what's happening? Keyboard mad. Is my Linux virtual machine crashing here? Oh, I had a pop-up window. Okay. Dev prod. I don't want to save this. I don't want to save this, but I feel like I have to save this. Oh, my control S foo is like hamstrunging me here. So pseudocode here, and then down here I could just be like, all right, decision map. Look, I'll give different examples here, right? Instead of this, I could go decision map local, and then var environment name, right? And then I don't need to do the ternary operator anymore. I'm just piping the right value in there, right? Test, whatever, I don't know, and I guess you'd probably want to use this at this point, right? There you go, right? So turn it off for prod, turn it on for dev, right? This is one approach. RIP to Visual I know, man. Like in my Ubuntu VM, like the save window pops up behind, so it gets a little confusing. So Amir, you can do this. However, I'm not so convinced this is the best approach, right? Really, what I would like to see, is my Terraform code to be the same, whether it's dev or whether it's in production, right? And so what I would prefer to see is a situation where I create an input parameter that enables, whatever it is, let's say the service plan, right? And so instead of like tying it to like some environment name, magic string, I acknowledge that there's going to be a variable that says, you know, enable service plan, right? And that's going to be a type of bool, right? And you know, when I'm just going to save this, it's behind. All right, better idea. I'm just gonna, Amir, you get your own TF file. Okay, congratulations. It thinks it's JavaScript. I'm so annoyed. Okay, there we go. All right, we're like a little less annoying now. So I would much prefer to see, much to see like a boolean that enables this, and then I just you know, just put that right here. Am I not copying and pasting properly, right? And third option, right? I grab the enable service plan, and then I don't do a check on this magic string, right? This makes it much cleaner, right? Where you know, it's tied to this input variable. So I can make this conditional tied to an input variable, but I don't want to tie it to the state, like the state of a input variable, because that adds additional complexity. I can just as easy, you know, inside of a dev.tfr file, you know, in that TFR file, I can set enable service plan equal to true, right? And then in prod.tfr, I can set enable service plan equal to false. And then this extracts the environment configuration into a specific file, right? And it encapsulates the specific configuration for that environment into a single location. Otherwise, if you go with this approach that you just showed me, right, the configuration for the variations between your environments is going to be hard-coded and sprinkled all over your code base, which is not a good thing. Not a good thing. So I guess that's, I think, a very important design consideration is to keep environment-based configuration in a central location. The appropriate place for that is in an environment configuration file, like a TFR file. Okay. Hope that answered your question. Just reading what he said. He's got an Azure function which will use a service plan if prod is true. Yeah. So I think so basically I have this requirement in dev. We'll have one service plan. In prod, we'll have two. Yeah. So just like I said, Amir, you can solve that problem by crafting input variables that enable different modalities of your code base, right? Like in prod, I might need to have a service plan across two regions, right? Because I want active-active. Is that the only case? Is prod the only case where I'd want that? Well, what if you want to spin up another prod environment, right? You might need to name it something different, right? And now what, do you got to add like a if prod or this? No, right? So the prod environment can pass in an input variable that says multi-region, you know, or better yet, what region should I deploy service plans to, right? And then pass in the regions that you want to deploy to. And then your dev environment can pass in, you know, just one region, right? And then it'll just create an app service plan in just that one region, and a function app in that one region. So I will not be able to provide value in TFRs with my solution. Yeah, I'm not sure why. You might want to rethink that. You might want to rethink that. You know, TFRs is an excellent way to to encapsulate non-sensitive environment configuration. There are other solutions to do that, but like, I feel like TFRs is one of the best ones. One of the best ones. One of the most simple ones, that is. Anyways. Okay. Good question. Good question. Let's see here. I think Mateus had a question. Terraform env. What's a best practice when using secrets? Hard coding them seems like a bad idea. But applying them in DevOps as a secret seems better. So I guess I'm assuming what you mean by Terraform env, Mateus, is like your Azure credentials, you know, where you're going to be provisioning. And in that case, I think the best way to do that is through environment variables, right? So you should, like, you'll notice that in my provider definition here, my backend, even though I'm using a backend, is completely empty. And my provider declaration only has a features block, right? Because I don't put the Azure RM configuration in my source code. Even like non-sensitive values like subscription or tenant ID, I don't put in my Azure RM code base, my Terraform code base, because that makes my root module inherently tied to that subscription. Like I won't be able to ever use that root module again if I want to provision to a different subscription. I got to drop into code. I got to change the subscription ID, right? So the Azure environment, you know, that you configure, which is both the Azure credential that you use to authenticate. Now, if you're, you know, on the command line, you are probably going to be AZ login with an interactive login, excuse me. In a pipeline, you're going to be either using a managed ID or a service principal, right? In which case, the identity should be implicitly applied to Terraform, and it should not be in your code, right? Same with backend, right? The backend, I firmly believe, and you'll see this in my content about GitHub Actions or Azure DevOps. This is how I run Terraform, right? Like I'm setting environment variables for the subscription ID, tenant ID, client secret, because I'm using the service principal in this case. And this is what my Terraform apply looks like, right? So in no way do I have my Azure environment details in a TF file or a TFR file or any place like that. Okay. So that should be piped, though that context should be piped into, I have used Terraform Task in classic pipelines. I'm not proud of it. Probably a long time ago, because YAML pipelines is the way, man. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, Amir, is like those tasks, like if there's a bug in them, you have zero recourse to like solving your problem, right? And many years ago, when I switched away from classic pipelines to YAML pipelines, one of the catalysts was there's a bug in the Terraform task that I was using, and I could not deliver my project, you know? And so I'm like, I have to get this done. Like we need to be able to like deploy. This task is broken, I think. So yeah, drop into bash. Exactly. Drop into bash. And that's what you're looking at right here. And so that's why I say like Bash is universal. It also makes your pipelines relatively portable. You can run Bash on a lot of different tools like Jenkins, GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps. They all work with Bash. But if you use proprietary YAML tasks, you're going to have to go figure out the proprietary YAML task on whatever, platform you're using. Kind of sucks. So Matthias says, I was thinking about using DevOps variable group to apply the secrets. Yeah. I think that's good. On my Azure DevOps pipeline videos, you'll see me set up variable groups to pass in these, the big four. I call them the big four, right? Sub ID, tenant ID, client secret. 1, 2, 3, 4. You need those 4 things. And you can put them in an Azure DevOps variable group and just make sure the secret is flagged as a secret. Oh yeah, there you go, man. It works great. You can use Key Vault, but it's just as secure in an Azure. The client secret is just as secure in an Azure DevOps secret, in my opinion, as it is in Key Vault. And then you don't have to go through the ClickOps process of provisioning a Key Vault and adding a secret and putting it in there and then importing the Key Vault in your Azure DevOps variable group. It's like, okay, well, if I'm using a service principal, I'm going to have to go create a service principal and copy pasta it into, someplace. I could either do that to Key Vault or I could do that to Azure DevOps, right? And for very simple cases, I think Azure DevOps variable groups are just fine. It's limited benefit to move into Key Vault. Now, if you're going to reuse that over and over again across Azure DevOps organizations, then you might want to look at a Key Vault. Yeah. They required variables. Yeah. And Emir, I think that's fair. You might run into that. And then you gotta set up a Key Vault, and you gotta instead of copy pasting into an Azure DevOps secret. See, I think the Key Vault, for an organization like that, it would help avoid situations where somebody human error, right? At least we know in Key Vault there's no way to for it not to be a secret, right? In Azure DevOps, somebody could go in and create a variable group and they could accidentally forget to make the client secret a secret. It's possible. If you don't know what you're doing, I could see that happening, right? And so I would imagine that an organization that you encountered, Amir, is probably trying to prevent that sort of human error, right? Where somebody just does that. So, but don't you hard code the secret in the Key Vault? How do you populate it? Sorry, I'm really new to it. Yeah, you're essentially gonna be going into when you set up the client secret, you copy pasta that and you put it into Vault. That's what you do. If you don't want to manage that secret, you got to use something called managed identity, right? That's what managed identity does. And managed identity kind of requires you to be running in Azure. So you would need to set up basically an Azure DevOps custom build agent in Azure. I did that on a code review series that I did, where somebody wanted to set up a custom build agent on Azure DevOps. That just happened to be the Terraform code they wanted me to review, and I reviewed it and I refactored it, and I got an Azure DevOps VM, a single VM set up as a custom build agent. When you do that, you know, basically your Azure DevOps pipelines are going to run on that VM in Azure that you pay for, right? So it costs more money, which is why on my channel, I don't use managed identity. I use service principals because I want to use the cheap shared pool of VMs. Eventually, I'm going to have to get to a place where I use custom build agents because I've got a lot of stuff that I want to do with like private endpoints and like virtual WAN and crap like that. So, but in order to get to that place, I need to be able to provision all that stuff and then tear it down real fast. So this year, I think I'll probably be building some modules that are around creating, like very, very quickly creating custom build agents for Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions, mainly for my use in my demos. But you know, it'll be something that anybody could use to set things up for their environment so they could use managed identity. So Amir was, the key vault was at an ISP in the USA. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Oh God, my VM timed out on me here. Okay, so that's that. Man, great questions, guys. Like this has turned into a Q&A instead of Brownfield.NET app, which is fine. Like this, I'm here for you guys. So you guys, I'd much rather have somebody talking at me than nobody talking at me. Yeah, look into the Key Vault stuff. AZ900, is that like that's like a fundamentals course, right? Okay. So I've got access. So my Terraform code spits out this kubeconfig.yaml, and my script, my local script, drops it into this Kubernetes directory. And basically, if I run kubectl and I pass in kubeconfig, and then I can access the cluster, right? And I can see what's on there. And I don't have any pods. Am I provisioning the namespace yet? Yeah, I don't even think I'm provisioning a namespace. I probably should. So one of the things that I want to do is today in my Azure App Service, so not Azure App Service, what am I talking about? So we're using this application configuration service, Azure App Config. And the application has a bunch of stuff in there that provisions the configuration settings for the .NET app. And I want to go provision the config settings that my application uses out there. So if I go look at this thing, there's quite a few things that I need. Looks like I need, you know, SQL Database, Redis cache, storage account. Not sure if all these are needed, but the camera on OBS to the top right corner. Amir, I'm not sure what you're talking about, man. I can't see the full command. Oh, really? Oh, like my video. Because it's, oh, you know what? I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Can I move my terminal panel position? Can't I move the terminal out of here? Left? Oh, God. Oh, that's fun. I don't like this. I see what you're saying, Amir. Like you're saying, move it. I don't even know how to fix it now. Move my talking head. like get rid of the talking head. Jeez. Ah, panel position. Yeah. Let me see here. There was a way to move this stuff up to like a main window. Like I thought I could pop out the terminal to a main window. I guess it makes it full screen. Yeah, it's always going to be down at the bottom. That sucks. Unless it's like split. No. No, I don't want to split the terminal. That's annoying. I mean, that makes it up higher. That's better, right? So kubectl, kubeconfig, kubeconfig.yaml, get pods. And there are no pods. There we go. Get nodes. There we go. So I can see my nodes. And we're back down here. I can hit clear. It's a little cumbersome, but it's working, right? I'm just fumbling around on myself. Yeah. So I got these are my nodes. I got my system pool. I got my workload pool. All the things, right? So, but I want to provision my the app config. So if I go look at this app config, because I need to have, if I go to app config, I need to have like a key. So I need to provision stuff, right? But I also want to have like a key vault integration too, right? Because there are secrets. Some of the stuff that this app uses is going to be in a key vault. I think I provisioned a key vault already. Don't I? I guess not. Let me pop over to the resource group. RG, oh yeah, here it is. Dev. Do I not have a key vault in here? Yeah, I don't see key vault. So I think I'm gonna have to provision a key vault straight away. So I think that'll be the first thing that I do. So I need a key vault. We'll just take theirs. And I'm gonna put it in a different file. Of course, I hate the names of all these things. Should start with KV. Please prefix your resources. It is so annoying when like there is no sane order for resources in a resource group. It is the worst. Trust me. I think I do have my Azure RM client config here, which is going to pull the current tenant. I'm okay with that. Soft delete retention, XYZ. Obviously my name is terrible. Like, and it's been a while since I provisioned a key vault. Like, I think hyphens are okay. So we're just going to try this. So, all right. We're gonna, is Amir's TF in here? I deleted it. I'm sorry, Amir. Your TF file's gone. So I'm using a custom debug.sh script that runs Terraform. Yeah, I know. Like, let me see if I can fix the camera thing. I have to pop out of here. Yeah, there's a lot of screen real estate up in the top right that really doesn't matter. How's that? I'm up here now. Look down there. Oh my gosh. All right, so we've got 3 to destroy. I think these are just like the PowerShell scripts. And the reason why these things destroy over and over again is just, I inherited it from the Bicep that I converted. And that's just the way they do it. So it's a random UU GUID essentially, and it always is replaced because it triggers to be replaced when the timestamp changes, right? So it's pretty much always going to be replaced. No forehead. Oh, I don't know, man. Like on YouTube, I can see like my whole frame. Like I can see all this up here. You guys are cracking me up, man. All right. So I got my key vault here. What else do I need? It needs a key vault access policy. I wonder if I can do I need to use an access policy? So it looks like we're using, in order to get app config working here, we are assigning a user assigned identity, and then we're granting it this stuff. And this is the Terraform user. And then we're putting in a key vault key. And then we're doing some, this is my Azure app configuration. Oh, and so we're assigning that. So basically my user assigned identity, my app config service needs a user assigned identity in order to get access to key vault. Wicked. Okay. I'm cool with that. And it looks like they're doing some sort of encryption here. So in order to encrypt Azure app config, so basically this is going to use key vault to encrypt the config. Okay. I thought it would store secrets out there in app config, which is interesting. So I don't think my app config has a user assigned managed identity at all. So we're gonna have to fix that. Let me go look at the Bicep to see what they did. Docker.net. Where did I put their Bicep? Oh yeah, here it is. All that nasty Bicep. App config, key value. Yeah, they're just... So app configuration. Maybe it would be... Maybe this is what they're going to... Oh, so they are putting it in Key Vault here. So they're creating a Key Vault. And they're creating some secrets in Key Vault. And these kind of look like what a .NET application is going to pull, right? So that makes sense to me. Let's look at Redis cache. So it looks like in the Bicep, they are creating the secret, which I do the same thing in my Terraform. So we're referencing an existing key vault, and then we're adding a secret to that. Now the question is, does this key vault get tied to the app config anywhere? I probably need to go look at the app config. Where do they provision the app config? That's it. So this is but it's just like for front door, which is kind of weird. It's me. It's you, Amir. I'm sorry, man. So app config .bicep. Interesting. So I really only see app config for the service here. does the .NET code like pull from Key Vault? Look at all this fun. Okay, here we go. So we're just pulling, yeah, all this stuff is in configurations, right? So app insights, connection string, they're pulling it from config. So this is gonna have to be, if I search for this, maybe app insights is a bad example, because that's kind of, no, that does look like kind of a custom. Let's look for this guy, the Redis cache connection string. Now, technically, we don't have to use Redis cache connection strings because we could use managed identity. But because I'm trying to apply, principle of least change, I guess, like minimize changes, like just to containerize this thing. Like I don't want to change any code if I don't have to. So if they're using a connection string, we're just going to use a connection string. And that's how it's going to be. So this vault is where this thing's being stored. So we're creating a secret out in Key Vault, and then we're getting it. We're getting that value. So the Bicep must have some method for plugging in, connecting the Key Vault to the app config. I just don't see it. It's kind of weird. Key Vault diagnostics. Oh yeah, they're doing like primary, secondary. Key Vault. So we have this Key Vault name. Maybe I should go to the very tippy top. App service plan. App settings. Okay, that's interesting. So they're leveraging the Azure App Service to put in much of this configuration, which I can't do. I'm going to have to either create a config map or put it someplace. Now that might be just cheating. Yeah, they're using Azure App Service. So I don't even know if they're putting the stuff into Key Vault, but I don't think they're configuring the Azure App Service to use Key Vault or use app config. So here's my app config service. I think this is what I've been really looking for. That sucks. Public network access. And so I need to see where we reference this thing. So they're using the app config service for the endpoint, which makes sense because I found a bunch of front door like endpoints. What is this? Private. Oh, so they are using private link connection, even though they're enabling public internet access. It's kind of weird. Set up Azure AD settings. So this is a module. So they're probably putting the service principal settings in the app config service. Role assignments for web apps. So we need to grant the web app access to the app config service. Key Vault. Key Vault role assignments. Grant the data reader to the principal scope. That's interesting. Key vault admin role definition ID. Oh, I see. So this is granting the app config service a key vault admin role. So the principal ID. Yeah. I think if I can hard code it, like it's going in the config map, but everything else, I don't know, maybe I'll just throw this stuff into the Azure App Config Service, because like, why not, right? So I've got app settings. This is a little bit of a mess, okay? Just being real honest. It's a little bit of a mess. Like, we've got app settings. Why is this declared twice? Probably because we have like a primary and a secondary. Like, I have don't I have app settings declared twice? So I've got config. What was this previous one called? It's the same. Is this like copy pasta? Yeah. So I've got I kind of want to create like a little sanity like config file, so I know what the hell's gonna go into the config file that I need to, because I can't use Azure App Service. I'm gonna roll this thing on Kubernetes on AKS, right? So it's either gonna go into config map, app config service, which I already have set up in the .NET app, or Key Vault, right? That's what I'm gonna do, right? So let me go and just start creating like a config.md. So I need to keep track of this stuff. So these were like app settings. Okay. And it's not super readable, right? And then what else we got? I don't need the .NET code anymore, really. I really need to go look at Bicep. So resources is kind of the, it appears like normally it's main.bicep, like maybe main just hits the resource. Yeah. Okay. It's coming back to me now. So main.bicep is the root module, so to speak. And then it creates this resources.bicep for one for the primary region and one for the secondary region. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Which is why there's only one front door. Yeah. Okay. So all the things are in basic, except for front door, are in this resources, that thing. So if I look in here for app config service.id, anybody that's going to go do something with the app's config service, I need to know, because I need to know, okay, private link, don't care about that. There's only 5 of these, so there shouldn't be a lot. Role assignment. Okay. So that's role assignment for the user assigned identity, I'm assuming. For another role assignment. So are we referencing it by using some other property? Okay, properties endpoint. Yeah, so that has to go in my config map. Here it is. So the Azure AD settings, so it's when we're creating stuff in app config, we use the name. Okay. Never use the Azure App Config Service. Okay, full disclosure. So this little Bicep module, Azure AD settings.bicep, takes an input parameter for the app config service and a bunch of crap, and there's probably like four or five little of these like app config keys that it creates in that file. And you can see it right here. So we got key values, right? So that's the key, that's the value, and it's going in the app config service. Okay. I'm not quite sure what this is. So key values is like the actual resource type. Wow, that's kind of a wacky resource type. Usually, yeah, it should have like a service. Oh yeah, resource provider. So the resource provider is probably like this, Microsoft.app configuration. And then it goes whack key values. And the configuration stores is probably the actual endpoint itself. And yeah, so this is where we're picking up the existing app config service endpoint. And then, oh, I see. So yeah, my Biceps definitely like did not realize this was, so you can embed resources inside of other resources in Bicep. So, and then when you do that, the resource provider is implicit, right? So because this resource right here is embedded inside of the app config service, like I've got this thing is kind of implied in front of all these things, right? I could deploy, it's kind of, this is not possible in Terraform. This is not how Terraform works. And when I say this is not possible in Terraform, I'm not saying, oh, wow, this is such a great feature. I'm so glad Bicep has this in Terraform, and like Terraform's so bad it doesn't have this. I'm like, I'm not sure why anybody would want to do this ever. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, gives me the willies. Just gonna be real honest. Because then it's like, there's a lot of computation I have to do as a developer to realize, I mean, you saw me do it. Like, I'm like, what the frick is this? Key values, where's the resource provider type? And I have to do the mental math to go, oh, it's a nested resource. And so, yeah, blah, blah, blah. That bad. I don't like that. Don't like that at all. So basically I need to pull these out. So let me just open this to the side. I think I can drag and droppy. Yeah. So this is going to be in my app config. App config. So I got this thing. I got this thing. I got this thing. See, in order for my app to work, and I don't want to change the code, like I need all these things, you know? And if they're not there, then, you know, it won't work. And so there we go. Now it seems kind of super redundant, but there must be a reason why they have like and maybe this is a different client ID. Oh, okay. So this is the Azure ID for the backend. So maybe I should write that down. Azure AD credential or identity. Yep. Web API settings. Okay. Front end. Okay, so this is the front end. Azure AD identity for the front end. So there's really not a super great blast radius between, you know, the front end and the back end. Not super happy about that. But again, that's something that I'll address in the future. You know, once this app is up and running and everything's happy and like it's running in Kubernetes, and like then I'm like, okay, now I can make some changes, right? So that's everything that's happening in there. Now let me save the config.md. Now I do need to go find in Key Vault. So I've got Key Vault. key vault.name. Let's see where key vault is referenced. So when I set up my Redis, I reference key vault. Interesting, when I set up my Azure AD settings, it's also, I need to go look at that again. So Redis, there should be something in Azure AD. So why is key vault in here? Oh, it's a key vault ref. Okay. So we are doing a key vault ref for all of these things. So I need, yeah, I missed this in my first pass. This is important. So this is what I was thinking. So in my app config service, clearly I can make a key vault ref, but my app config service has to have managed identity access to whatever the key vault is. So I need to construct a string in this format, I presume, with the key vault URI and the secret. Okay, so that means like each of these, I'm going to put a secret in key vault for. This is what I needed to know. Yes, this is wonderful. Okay, and then I just use this magic string using the key vault URI to reference said key vault. Okay, so there's no other magic that I need, really. So I need a user assigned identity for my app config. Boom. So this will be my app config buddy who's going to get access to the key vault. Yes, sir. Now I'm naming the user assigned identity, like the object. It's going to be called the app config one because it is going to be used specifically for the app config identity. It's not going to be used for anything else. So I'm giving it a specific name. And then I guess I'll just give it the same name, but I'll put a MI on the front of it. So for managed identity, we got the app config. And so now, I mean, usually when you do, there's an identity block, and then it's like, I forget what it's called. It's app config. It's pretty consistent across all services. Where is it? Yeah, identity IDs. See, I always, to be human. Ooh, there we go. Okay, so now this guy is going to be my app config ID. I guess I don't need that little comma there. And what do we got? So I got my user assigned identity set up for now I need to grant my app config service access to my key vault. Now with key vault, there's access policies, or you can just do RBAC. So I'm gonna do RBAC because this is the new hotness, right? So there's a flag that enables this. I think it's just called RBAC. Yeah, enable RBAC authorization. Copy pasta doesn't work so great. True. Okay, I'm okay with this. And then I need a role assignment. Role assignment, where are you? Why can't I not see you? And we're gonna drop, I guess right here, app config key vault access. So the scope is not, so the scope has to be the key vault ID. Okay, and then the principal has to be my user assigned identity. App config, and I think it's the object ID. The example should, yeah. So the example gives me enough to know that it should be object ID. Now the key vault built-in like what are the key vaults? Built-in roles. Just, I don't have these committed to memory either. So let's see what these are. Key vault. Where are they? Read. Let's see this. I think it's the second one that I want. Built-in roles. Key vault administrator. I mean, that would be super easy. I don't know if I need all those things. I think I need to search for key space vault. Oh God. There's so many. Key vault contributor, crypto officer. Now I do need to make Terraform like, oh, this is insane. Read secret contents. Well, it's a secrets user, but is there no more concise way to like browse these? Like, I don't want the full spec. I just want the list and the descriptions, you know, data access administrator. I definitely don't want to key vault administrator. Terraform needs to be a key vault administrator for sure. So I need to go do that for Terraform. So I should, and then I have to make everything, I have to make everything dependent on that. So Mr. Terraform's going to get this access. Yeah. And then it's going to be my client config data. Well, I guess that'll just be me, right now, technically. Yeah. No, we're doing lots of new things now. Let me clear this and, oh, I moved my head, so it should be visible now. Right. That was fun. Oh, and I got a little bug. Yeah, my role, I never finished the role assignment. I was baddie. Just comment it out. We don't need it, right? We don't need it yet. Yeah, and I'm giving the Terraform user the app config data owner as well. So that's another thing that's going to happen. What? Azure RM app config. Did I do a goof? Oh, well, yeah, there's probably just one, and then I just did a typo. All right, there we go. Shall we review the plan? Okay, we are creating a role assignment to give the app config managed identity. Let's make this bigger. So we're creating a user assigned identity called app config. Managed identity, app config service, application and environment name. Looks good to me. We're referencing that thing I think this is, no. Oh, that's not what I want. Yeah, this is not app config. This is the Terraform. Terraform key vault access. That's what that is. Okay. See, gotta review your plan. Gotta review your plan. Changing object references is a pain in the butt. I just don't want to do it. All right, let's look at this thing again. All right. What do we have here? Some weird updates to Redis cache. Strange. Key vault. I like the name of my key vault. I'm happy about that. I don't know if I want soft delete retention. I don't think I want that, because I'm gonna have to tear this thing down and create it a whole bunch of times. So I really don't want any key vault shenanigans. I guess I could just add a rando to the key vault name. Soft. Optional. It has to be 7 or days, 7 to 90. Maybe it'll auto recover that. Well, that'll be a good experiment. All right, we're gonna live with the 7 days soft delete. Azure App Config, managed identity. We're adding that to an existing. I think we're good. Key vault's creating. Let's go smash refresh. There's our key vault. There's my managed identity for the app config service. Okay, so while this is applying, I'll go create the role assignment to grant the app config guy access to key vault. And let's try secrets reader. Key vault secrets reader. Oh yes, this is what I wanted. This is nice. Key vault reader. Okay. Yeah, so I think that's what I should probably do. Oh, and it's like secrets user. So read metadata of key vaults and its certificates, keys, and secrets. Cannot read sensitive values. Yeah, so that's not going to work. So I need key vault secrets user. Yeah, that's what I need. Key vault secrets user. Okay. And I need to use the user assigned identity for app config. Cool. We're still creating key vault. So this is going to grant my app config. And this is going to grant my Terraform user access. And I think I'll call it there for today. Anyways, Amir, Matthias, thank you guys for joining. Please smash that like button. It helps out a lot if you guys enjoyed this. I guess I'll see you guys next time. We kind of figured out the action plan for the app config that I need to update. Some of this is going to go into a config map. Some of this is going to have to get created in the Azure App Config service. Some of it's going to have to get created in Key Vault. So it's really kind of meat and potatoes, systematic. You know, like when you take a Brownfield app, you gotta systematically like go through it and find all the things, and make sure you got a home for them on your new architecture. So in this case, config map is probably going to be a place, if not just the app config service for everything. Anyways, Amir, you're still hanging out? Cool. I'll see you guys. I might be off next week because I'm going to be going skiing, but a week after that, we'll pick this up. And if I can squeeze in, maybe during the weekday, I'll pop on here like a Wednesday night or something like that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, trying to get this .NET Reliable web app updated, using Terraform, using AKS. We are making some progress. I got my images published for the web app, so I need to kind of get some of the secret values ready. Otherwise, even if I run my pods, like they're not going to work because they won't have any of the configuration settings. So that's our next step, and we'll pick that up right where we left off next week. I'm gonna smash destroy on this, and that way I don't pay for this like multi-node. Yeah, I gotta hit the gym. Amir, you call me fat, man? It's okay. I am fat. Oh, dang. I probably did that a little too prematurely. Let me get rid of this. We're not ready for this yet. Okay. I don't know what a kilo is, but I got about 60 pounds I could get rid of. Yeah, I work from home. I like my wife and I used to go to the gym a lot every morning, but we kind of got out of that after vacations and things like that. So, hey, 15 to 20 would be a good start for me. I'll say that. All right. Well, the destroy's going. Amir, love you, man. Thanks for hanging out. Matthias as well. Good questions, and we'll see you guys next time. And hope you guys enjoyed the channel, and take care. Cheers.